I'd like to welcome everybody to this seminar on European societal impact of submarine cable system throughout the Arctic Ocean. We got over 70 participants from all over Northern Europe and Southern Europe and the Nordics, and that is quite astounding. The agenda, I will come with a short welcome and introduction, then we'll give the word to Filipe Batista from the Portuguese Permanent Representation for the European Union. Then we'll hear Ari Yushi talking about the Arctic Connect submarine fiber system. And then in the end, we'll have Kimo Koski talking about LUMI and the importance of Arctic Connect. And then there will be time for some questions and answers. My introduction has 5 different topics: why submarine cables are important, why Europe is being squeezed by US and China, how we can create a European connectivity strategy, and how we can work towards a European data center strategy. And last but not least, why Arctic is important in this perspective. Why submarine cables are so important. The internet continues to grow in economic relevance and volume. It's a part of our critical infrastructure of societies nowadays. The society impact of the digital economy is massive. Submarine cables are the way to interconnect continents and islands. Over 97% of today's internet traffic uses fiber optical submarine cables. There are satellite technologies coming up with SpaceX and others, but they are still, from a latency point of view and especially from a capacity point of view, not comparable with the capabilities of the submarine cable systems. Therefore, submarine cable systems are strategically important as they are form the core of the critical digital infrastructure of societies. Europe is being squeezed by US and China. If we look at the investments, and it's 2 different types of squeezes. I've added some examples here, but if I look at the investments from the big tech companies from 14 to 18, they invested over $300 billion in subsea cable systems and data centers around the planet, also in Europe. On the other side, we also see China with a new digital Silk Road that are also investing tens of billions of dollars in gaining influence, and that also touches Europe. The nervousness in US for the rise of the China, in that sense, you can see in the report that was done by CSI. If you want to have a bit of view on the investment that was done by online service providers, we provided a link into that. And there are also some links into the China Silk Road initiatives. The main thing is that both the US tech companies and the Chinese government has some clear strategies of dominating the world. We are in between, despite that we in principle are in the center of many of these communication passes. Until now, the EU has not had, the European companies, the European countries have not had a digital strategy for carving our own place in this world from a geopolitical point of view. So looking into creating a European connectivity strategy, Europe is today connected with submarine cables. Most of the currently telco-owned cables are old, and many are either being replaced or about to be retired. The majority of modern cables are controlled by non-European big tech companies. As digital is the future, Europe must take its destiny in its own hands. Europe needs a European-led submarine cable projects. Europe needs to establish funding to match the big tech companies in China. And Europe also needs to look in a reciprocity regulatory regime. What I mean by that is, if you look towards US as an example, there's a very strict regulatory regime for foreign cable systems landing there, giving the US companies an unfair advantage. We need to look from a European side of view how we deal with this and how we can actually also set our own agenda on this part. This is a cornerstone for the European Digital Gateway Declaration that Philippe will be talking about later on. But submarine cables are not the only thing that we need to worry about. Data has become the new oil. Storing and computing vast amounts of data requires data centers. Data centers need power, cooling, land, and connectivity. And just like submarine cables, non-European big tech companies run the majority of data centers in Europe, hence also having access to huge amount of European data. For Europe to be both digital sovereign and green, we need a strategy where we place data centers where there's an abundance of green energy, natural cooling, and real estate. Those need to be created and run by European-led companies and with excellent fiber optic connectivity. Why is Arctic so important? From my mentioning of the data centers, the Arctic region has all of these things. It has abundance of real estate. It has an abundance, surplus of green power, green energy, and natural cooling. Here, Arctic Connect also provides a submarine cable system across the Arctic Ocean that for the first time will connect Europe with Japan and the west coast of North America directly. It's a unique and shorter route. It will greatly add to European digital sovereignty. It's led by a European company and can be using European technology. The Arctic is a perfect place for data centers with the energy and with a low cost renewable energy, and we can move data and not energy around. It creates additional business opportunities in the remote regions and shifting data gravity to cold climate and more efficient operations. A digital empowered Europe by 2020 is a statement I picked up from the Commission, but it requires that Europe have a strong and well-funded digital infrastructure strategy, including a European digital connectivity strategy and including a European digital data center strategy. We need to balance the challenges from both from US and for China. We need to achieve this by intelligently using the abundance of green energy, cooling, and land in the Arctic region.